Starting a company is like a roller coaster ride. According to Forbes, 72% of entrepreneurs are affected by mental health issues. And even if you're not a founder, that number is still close to 50%. So how do we deal with stress? Hey everyone, this is Rick and welcome back to The Seed, the Startup Journey, the entrepreneurship podcast sharing the origin stories of amazing founders and their companies in 20 minutes. Now, I believe that mental health is something that should be talked about more. And so today we'll be chatting with Lynette Seow, the COO of Safe Space, a mental health startup in Singapore that is providing both online and offline counseling so that we can create a safe space where people can process, understand, and heal. Hey Lynette, thank you so much for coming onto our podcast today. To start us off, could you tell us a little bit about yourself as well as your company, Safe Space?
Sure. Okay, so my background is in tech consulting. So I spent 5 years in that role before moving to an internal strategy role with a tech MNC. And then I started at Safe Space officially full-time in January this year. So Safe Space is a mental health platform that matches therapists to clients, helping clients find a suitable therapist for them based on a series of questions that we then use to match with a therapist that has the specializations to help them work through the issues that they might be facing at the point in time.
Got it. So what made you decide to jump from, working in tech consulting corporate world into the startup world?
Yeah, so with COVID, I was saving a lot of traveling time, not having to go into the office and all that. So I had a bit more free time on my hands. And mental health has always been an area that I was interested in. So I did some desktop research about the industry, recognizing how much it was growing so quickly and all of that. And then after a month of desktop research, I was like, I need to get my hands dirty and do something about this. So I had actually heard of Safe Space a couple of years ago, around the time before the MVP was even up. And I reached out to the founder, Internet, and on LinkedIn, and I was just like, hey, would you like a volunteer? Here's my CV. Let's have a chat. Yeah, so I had no expectations for what I would actually be doing. But I started as a volunteer in July last year, looking at product. So being the bridge between business and tech. So working with the tech team to understand the business requirements, and then building that up into the current platform.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And I want to dive a little bit deeper into that because I think for a lot of startup founders, finding a co-founder or finding the initial team members are very important, but sometimes hard to do. And, you have to pitch your idea. You have to somehow convince them that joining your startup is better than working at Apple or Google. So from your point of view, how did your CEO, Internet, convince you to join Safe Space?
Honestly, I think we just got lucky. So this random LinkedIn email happened and then we had a chat, right? And then throughout the time that I was volunteering, it was pretty much a 6-month trial period of working together. And I just found that every day I enjoyed looking forward to working with the team. I felt that the work was meaningful, and an opportunity came up at the end of the year where I was actually retrenched from my full-time job, and then I was weighing my options to see what should the next step be. Yeah, and then she offered me the position. I was like, I don't think she had to do any convincing. All the convincing had happened implicitly over the 6 months.
Gotcha. So let's talk a little bit more about the mental health focus, because I think it's very important, perhaps even more so for entrepreneurs. It's a very fast paced and sometimes high stake and high stress environments. What do you think are some of the common challenges in terms of mental health that entrepreneurs face?
So interestingly, we just finished a white paper with ACE in Singapore, which is the Action for Community Entrepreneurship, where we looked at startup founder mental health. So we surveyed and interviewed over 150 startup founders.
Wow.
And then compiled a whole report and white paper that's live now, actually for download, about our findings from this. So what's common things that startup founders face would be sleep problems, finding that there's nobody to share their problems with. So we did an analysis across solo founders versus companies with co-founders, male and female founders, there's also some gender disparity there. Who do they normally turn to for help? Or what kind of activities do they turn to for help? Some turn to smoking, some turn to religion, some turn to exercise, some turn to therapy. The most common phrase that came up through the interviews would be highs and lows or roller coaster. So it really is quite a journey. So part of it is also we are trying to educate the community and the other startup founders that prioritizing your mental health is important for you as an individual, but as a startup founder, it's important for your business. And that's also a message that we want like investors, accelerators, incubators to hear as well.
Is imposter syndrome something that came up often while you were doing the interviews?
Yeah, for sure. Everybody's like, yeah, we have no idea what we're doing. I came from this very specific role previously, and I was really good at it. But now I've got to do this role plus another 20 roles, and I've got to do everything myself. Maybe previously I had a team to work on this with me. So that's one bit of it. Another one, a lot of especially for the younger founders, quite a few of them are actually fresh out of school as well. So very eager to learn, but also not sure where to get that guidance from. I guess in an organization, you would look to people who are senior to you in the organization who have done what you've done before. But when you're charting on like new territory, right? Who do you actually? There isn't a manual or a handbook for this. So yeah, imposter syndrome especially is a common thing that a lot of people face.
For sure. Like I think even with me, sometimes when I'm reaching out to guests, I feel like, wow, like why would they even want to talk to me, So do you think that, as an entrepreneur working in the mental health space, does that make handling stress and anxiety easier for you guys?
I think it hits us the same way as it would any individual. I think it helps being in this space specifically because we can be so open about it between each other and with our teams as well. It's not uncommon if the team members come to us and say, hey, we're feeling a bit burnt out, or stressed out, or this thing is happening at home, therefore it's affecting my mental health. And we can have very open conversations about it because that is literally what we do every day. Also, as a function of being in this industry, I guess we become more self-aware and seeing issues that clients go through. You just become more self-aware about what is your mental health state at that point in time. When we look after the team, mental health is something that we consciously look out for, whereas I guess in other companies, that might not be top of mind. Yeah, so things like we're implementing an internal mental health policy where there's like mandatory mental health day. I mean, we value the team a lot, so that we got to look after their mental health as well and create a safe space for them as well to talk about whatever they need to.
And I have a secret informant, like my sister, and she told me that Safe Space, like your working culture, is kind of drink and chill. Is that what you'd recommend like founders to do in order to like deal with stress and anxiety, or do you have some other tips that you could share with us?
Hey, come on, Cynthia, that's not all there is to it. So it's pretty much whatever helps you relax. So apart from that, we also actually like do exercise together, or just take a walk sometimes. Just regular things that you relax. I wouldn't say there's one particular activity that works for everybody. Yeah, so it's about what helps you unwind and kind of unplug for a bit mentally. What we have with the team is a weekly trivia Friday. Yeah, so we call it Wind Down Fridays. So every Friday afternoon, we take turns to create a Kahoot quiz. Yeah, and then we get pretty competitive about it. So it's really fun. And it's great for team bonding and just actively planning time and setting aside protected time for team bonding and just chilling without talking about work.
So for kind of like on an individual basis, because I think sometimes people are aware of, they're experiencing stress and anxiety, but they might not know, the best way to deal with it. And I know some people try out like meditation, all these different things. Like how would you recommend people seeking, professional help like therapists, or, should they go and download like Calm or Headspace and then try to figure things out on their own?
Yeah. So For me, I find perhaps those self-help tools good as a first step to get you. That there is still some resistance towards seeing a therapist, like in person or even through video call. I tried the self-help tools and meditation apps, and then I tried text therapy, and then I finally got comfortable enough, just personally going to see a therapist. And I did find the therapist the most helpful, but I needed the other two steps to get me ready and ready enough to be open to going to see an actual therapist. In all honesty, I think that the trend, or maybe in the next few years, seeing a therapist will be almost like having a personal trainer. It's pretty much a personal trainer for your mind, right? You can always have a check-in. We do think of it as when you're facing a crisis situation, then you try to fix the problem by going to a therapist. But there are also bits where revealing things that you might not be aware of, but it's actually impacting your day-to-day life. And you can always look to improve yourself and your happiness through it.
For sure. And I wanted to also touch a little bit more on, your Safe Space company site. You talked a little bit about how COVID was actually, one of the reasons that got you to join Safe Space. And I know that like online counseling is becoming, more and more popular now because of the pandemic. So has that like changed how you guys looked at, your business and how you operate? I
think remote therapy was always part of the DNA. There's always been an element of that. What COVID did was help the market accelerate to accept that. So on one part, COVID did create a lot of issues for people who needed help. So around job insecurity, around financial worry, around working from home and trying not to kill their spouses. You had some comments around that as well. But there was also I believe there's a very strong like latent demand that has always been there of people who were curious about or who wanted to try therapy, but just still hung up on the stigma around it. And COVID, all the conversations around mental health that have exploded as a result of COVID, just makes it that much easier to take a next step forward and give it a shot. And then online, while everybody's used to having Zoom meetings ad nauseum now almost, the resistance on both the therapist side and the client side to how effective would a video counseling session be, that has also been reduced.
I know that you guys were doing a lot of fundraising recently. Like, where would you say you are now along your startup journey? Like, are you guys still struggling to survive, or are you on that hockey stick growth, riding to the moon?
Oh, hitting the moon, man, taking a rocket ship there. Yeah. So, I mean, things have really picked up, since COVID, and it's just been accelerating. So the fundraising helps us fuel that rocket ship. And so we're expanding the team now, continuing to service our clients. There's a lot more interest on the corporate side as well. So we're getting a lot more interest in corporate clients that want to both sponsor or subsidize their employees' therapy sessions because they recognize that their employees might be struggling, and that this is an option that they can provide for their employees. And then secondly, also in the form of education, so webinars. How can they educate their employees based on certain topics or issues that they see arising amongst their workforce? For example, burnout or stresses from working from home and not being able to stop your workday at 6 p.m. or something. So we're able to help them out in these two fronts, and also and because of the flexibility of being a startup, being able to customize it to that offering to whatever suits the employees and the company's needs.
And so I was also wondering if you have any advice for someone like me who is, still in college but I'm interested in startups and might want to, potentially start something of my own in the future.
Actually, I was in the same position. So I've always had an interest in entrepreneurship and startups. since I was a kid and all that. The path that I took, which I don't necessarily recommend, but I'm just sharing it as an experience, was to join an MNC first, because I was thinking, oh, maybe it's easier to go from a big company to a small company, rather than the other way around. Debatable, but it's okay. You also learn a lot of possibilities in terms of scale of what large organizations can do. And they also have more established processes around how things should be done. If you want to look at it negatively, it's called red tape or bureaucracy. But the intention behind these things are good. It just morphs into a different beast as the company grows, and that's another issue. Ultimately, so I that experience was incredibly invaluable for me to spend a few years in the corporate side, and then moving to a startup has been a whole other journey. I found the transition very easy, actually. No culture shock or anything, but then I had that skill set to kind of bring into the startup now. At this point I can't imagine going back to a corporate job, because I have my friends say I've never seen you so tired, but I've never seen you so happy before. Honestly, when they say like you love what you do and every day work doesn't feel like work every day, even though it could be a tough day or a rough one, you're still fueled by the passion for the cause that the startup is for, for me, that this is impacting people's lives, and improving their mental health as something that is so fundamental to each individual. So they're driven by once you kind of find a sweet spot where you're able to merge that purpose that you want to drive, passion for what excites you. It's incredible.
Yeah. No, and I'd imagine like your experience probably also makes it easier now for you guys to like reach out to these corporate clients and try to get them on board with Safe Space as well. So definitely.
Yeah.
So before we end, I prepared a quick game. It's called This or That. So I'll throw you topics and then just choose which one you prefer.
Okay.
All right. The first one, coffee or beer?
Oh my gosh, that is so tough. Did Cynthia come up with this?
She did.
Oh my gosh. Oh, good one. Oh, dear.
That's awesome. Next one, staying up late or waking up early?
This is really good. I like both. I hate afternoons. Staying up late.
Netflix or YouTube?
Netflix.
Yakun or Toastbox?
Toastbox.
Headspace or Calm?
Headspace.
All right, so this is it for today's interview. Thank you again for coming on. And I wish you the best of luck.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Rick. Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. One thing that stuck out to me after chatting with Lynette is the idea that in a few years, having a therapist will be similar to having a personal trainer. It's pretty much like having a personal trainer, but for your mind. A person who you can check in periodically and monitor your health to reach your desired goals. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite part or your takeaways are. And before you go, if you like our weekly interviews summarized in 1-minute droplets delivered straight to your inbox, make sure to head over to our website and subscribe. I'll also put the link in the descriptions. That's it for today's episode. Let's grow our seed of innovation and creativity together, and I'll see you next time.